Study and exercise of elemental magic, garlic magic. Page 155 of the book Occult Botany, which is attributed to Paracelsus, has some mistaken data about garlic magic. The Arhuaco Indians know about the garlic's elemental magic since very ancient times. The garlic shrub possesses various little, thin elementals with white tunics. One has to bless the garlic shrubs before harvesting them. 5 garlic heads must be harvested along with 5 leaves of recrusada and 5 leaves of carnestoledo, Coxlospermuni hibiscoides kunth trees. Each garlic head must be enveloped within a leaf of each one of these trees. Such leaves must be placed in a cross in order to envelop the garlic. Prayers of faith must be uttered while the garlic heads are enveloped. Then, all of it must be girdled within a little green bag. It is thus carried as an amulet or talisman around one's neck in order to defend oneself against the waves of evil which are emitted by the black magicians. Magic of the Artemisia plant, Artemisia campestris L. This plant must be harvested at 12 midday on Good Friday. The magician will trace a circle around the plant, and he will kneel before it. Then he will pray, asking the elemental of the plant for the desired service. Next, he will yank it from its very roots and will take it to his house. The plant must be yanked while the magician is facing towards the east. The plant must be hung from its roots on the ceiling of the house, so that the plant remains with its roots aiming upwards and its branches aiming downwards. The plant must remain towards the east. The power of this elemental will grant to its owner whatever was asked for. Magic of the angel's trumpet plant, Datura arborea L. Known as borrachero, Tripeta de Angel in Colombia and Mexico, Higaton in Bolivar, and Floripondio in Peru. The elemental of the angel's trumpet tree is completely a magician. He is Neptunian and has tremendous powers. When clairvoyantly seen, this elemental looks like a 12-year-old child. He carries in his hands the magician's magic wand. Every angel's trumpet tree has its corresponding elemental, who has to be utilized by those who wish to consciously depart in their astral body. I was frequently utilizing the elemental of this tree in order to teach my disciples to consciously depart in their astral bodies. I say that I was utilizing it because I am referring to ancient times. Procedure. I was taking a branch from the same tree, and with it, I was tracing a very wide circle on the ground around it. Then, I was crushing the tree's flowers and dabbing the pressed juice from it over the brain of the disciple. Then, the disciple, while laying on his bed, was going to sleep, and I was commanding the elemental to take that disciple out from his physical body. These commands were accompanied with the mantra of this tree, which is Kam, and must be pronounced by prolonging the sound of the 2 last letters, like this. K. All of our Gnostic disciples of this day and age must employ the powers of this elemental in order to learn how to consciously depart in astral body. For this purpose, just proceed as we have just taught. You must imperiously command the elemental like this. When I call you, you will always assist me. I need you to take me out in my astral body every time that I command you to do so. Afterwards, the disciple will pierce a finger of his hand with a needle, and with a knife, he will make an incision on the tree in which he has to deposit his blood. In this way, the pact with the genie of this angel's trumpet tree will be formalized. Write with blood. Thus, you will learn that the blood is spirit, Nietzsche. Blood. Blood is a very special fluid. Then, the disciple will cut some hair from his head and will hang it on the tree. He will collect some petals from the flowers of the tree and will place them within a little bag hung from his neck as a talisman. Hence, from that instant, the disciple has this humble elemental under his service, who will always assist to his call. When the disciple wants to consciously depart in his astral body, he goes to sleep on his bed and pronounces the mantra of this tree. His mind is concentrated on this elemental genie, calling him mentally and begging him to take him out in his astral body. In the state of transition between vigil and dream, the elemental of the angel's trumpet tree will take him out of his physical body and will take him consciously to the places longed for. Any time the disciple can visit this tree, he must do it in order to water it, bless it, and to cut its flowers, which he will utilize whenever he wishes to do so. As we have already stated, these flowers must be crushed with a stone, then their juice is extracted and applied over the brain in order to depart in astral body. It is beneficial to warn that the application of this juice is performed at the time when the disciple will lay down on his bed when he is going to sleep. However, when the flowers are not available, the disciple must invoke his serving elemental in order for the elemental to take him out in his astral body. This elemental has also the power to make us invisible. When the disciple wants to make himself invisible, he pronounces the mantra Kam of the elemental of this tree. He calls his servitor and begs the elemental to make him invisible. This will actually happen. In ancient times, when I wanted to become invisible, I was crushing the flowers as I already explained. Then I was applying this pressed juice upon the joints of my body, while begging the elemental to make me invisible. Nonetheless, we have to warn that what the disciple must first do is transcend his body. In ancient times, the human being was living within the bosom of Mother Nature. All of the powers of the blessed goddess, Mother of the world, were potently resounding within their resonant centers. Thus, these powers were expressing themselves with the grandiose euphoria of the universe through all of the human being's chakras. Yet, in this day and age, the human being is completely unadaptable to nature, and the potent waves of the universe cannot express themselves through him. Therefore, our duty is to adjust our body to the bosom of the blessed goddess Mother of the world again. Our duty is to clean this marvelous physical organism and to prepare our body in order to convert it into a resonance center for nature. The disciple must daily invoke the 7 potencies with the powerful mantra Mweri Siranka and beg them to prepare his body for the exercising of practical magic. We also have to be tenacious and persevering year after year in invoking the 7 potencies in order for them to prepare our physical body for the exercising of practical magic. The body of a magician has a different vibratory tonality, different to the bodies of the other human species. No matter how good a musical instrument can be, if it is not properly tuned, then the musician will not execute his melodies with success. A similar situation occurs with the magician's human body. He has to tune his marvelous organism in order to execute his great works of practical magic with a plenitude of success. The pressed juice of the flower from the angel's trunipet tree, when applied to the body's joints, is used in occult medicine in order to acquire agility in the muscles. The seeds of this plant are only utilized by the evil ones for their criminal intents. We, the Gnostics, only utilize the pressed juice from its flower, petals. We advise the disciples to have this marvelous angel's trumpet plant for their works of practical magic on the patio of their houses. Moreover, this plant is a guardian against evil entities. Elemental magic of Jeo, coca, erythroxylon coca lam. And was the word of Jehovah to me, saying, Jeremiah, what do you see? And I said, I see an almond rod. Then Jehovah said to me, You have seen well, for I will watch over my word to perform it. Jeremiah 1:11. When we study these symbolic verses from the prophet Jeremiah, we find that the almond rod represents the magician's rod. In its purely vegetal aspect, the almond rod encloses a vegetal secret which Jeremiah did not want to unveil to the profane. The Jeo, coca, is hidden behind the almond rod. This marvelous plant serves in order to help one depart in astral body. The mantra of the Jeo is Boya Boya. A secret formula exists in order to prepare a potion with the Jeo. This potion permits the magician to consciously depart in his astral body. I must be very careful not to divulge this sacred formula, because humanity is not prepared in order to receive it. Sayurino, father of the Jeo, is a great master from the Mayan Ray. The elemental of the Jeo looks like a maiden of an extraordinary beauty, with her body of pure gold and her beautiful vestures. We, the Roman magicians from the ancient Rome of the Caesars, were frequently using the Jeo for our great works of practical magic. Elemental magic of the juniper tree, Juniperus communis L. The juniper is a very sacred broom tree. The Gnostic must learn how to manipulate the powers of this broom tree in order to converse with the angels. Let us now see the following biblical verses. And Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had do, and withal how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, So let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose, and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree, and he requested for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough. Now, O Jehovah, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baked on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drink, and laid him down again. 1 Kings 19:1-6. Biblical magic is something very holy. Very few are those who know it in depth. When the Bible tells us that Elijah sat under a certain juniper tree, and that under this juniper tree an angel appeared to him, what is hidden behind this is very profound esoteric wisdom. In order for an angel to make himself visible and tangible in the physical world, it is necessary to prepare for him a gaseous body so it can serve him as a physical instrument. Therefore, the magician who wants to make the angels visible and tangible in the physical world must know in depth the elemental magic of the juniper tree. The magician will collect some branches and berries from the juniper tree, which he will place within a container or pot with water to boil. He will drink a glass of that beverage when the ritual of angelic invocation begins. He will also place a censer over the altar of his sanctuary, in which he will put branches and berries of the juniper tree. He can also add branches of yarrow, Achillea millefolium L, for the decoction that he has to drink, as well as for the smoke offering in the temple. Yet, if he does not find the yarrow branches, only the juniper tree will be enough for the rite. The invoker must dress himself with his priestly robe. He can perform the ritual of first or second degree, or the Gnostic Mass as it appears in our book entitled Secret Writings of a Guru. When finishing the ritual, the invoker will swing the censer 3 times, commanding the elemental of the juniper tree to form the gaseous body over the altar of the temple, in order for the invoked angel to make himself visible and tangible in the physical world. The officiant must pronounce 3 times with a potent voice the name of the angel whom he wishes to invoke. The angel Israel can be invoked. The populace which has his own name was ruled by him during all of the biblical Exodus. Also, the angel Raphael or the angel Aroch, etc. can be invoked. The juniper tree that was used for its branches for that rite must remain covered with black cloth during the whole time of the ceremony. Some stones must also be hung from its branches. The elemental of the juniper tree looks like a 12-year-old girl and possesses great occult powers. The branches and berries of the juniper tree also have the power of cleaning our astral body from any type of larvae. This work can also be performed in a very simple way, within a room properly purified with frankincense and with prayer. In this case, the ritual can be replaced with invocations performed with a pure heart. The juniper tree will make a gaseous body which will serve as an instrument for the invoked angel. If our invocation is worthy, then the angel will come to our call and will make himself visible and tangible. Yet, if our invocation is not worthy of an answer, then the angel will not come to our call. The altar can be simply made with a table. When we read that the prophet Elijah sat under a juniper tree, this signifies that he invoked an angel by making use of a juniper tree. Thus, the angel concurred to his call and made himself visible and tangible. The juniper tree has various mantras that must be pronounced during the rite. Kem Lem are the mantras of this vegetal elemental. We read in the Memories of Nature that 3 zippers from Bacata practiced the rite of the juniper tree in order to make the angels visible and tangible. All of the divine kings from antiquity practiced the elemental magic of the juniper tree in order to converse with the angels. This marvelous elemental obeys an elemental queen of the fire. We see in the internal worlds this great elemental queen seated upon her throne of fire. The memories of nature tell us that the juniper tree has the power of placing our endocrine glands into a special, super-functioning degree. This simply signifies that all the chakras from the astral body enter into activity by means of the rite of the juniper tree. The elemental magic of the juniper tree belongs to the art of divine kings. We teach our disciples about great nature's royal art in our book entitled Igneous Rose. Igneous Rose is a book written for all those who are aspiring to enter onto the Divike path. We deeply study in the book Igneous Rose the evolution of the elementals of the Blessed Goddess Mother of the world. We meticulously study in Igneous Rose the elemental magic of 1,000 of plants. Therefore, all of those disciples who aspire to enter onto the Divike path must study in depth our book entitled Igneous Rose. We study in depth the elemental life of the earth, air, water, and fire in our book Igneous Rose. 7 paths of cosmic evolution exist, and Igneous Rose is the special book for all of those who aspire to the Divike path. Maguey, Fique, Kabuya, century plant. Agave americana L. A great lord of the light, a white magician in Lemurian epochs, wanted to stray onto the black path. I admonished him with advice in order to stop him, yet he was insisting in his intentions. Therefore, I was obliged to operate with the elemental of the maguey plant, who possesses great powers, in order for this magician to abandon such a fatal decision. I then ritualized in the already known way. Next, I cut one of the plant's fleshy leaves, and I placed it between the palms of my hands, pronouncing various times the 3 mantras of this elemental from the century plant. Libib, Lenoninas, Lenonon. Afterwards, I imperiously commanded the elemental to travel towards the dwelling of the white magician, who was in danger of straying onto the black path. Thus, the elemental took the shape of a little goat and submerged himself within the magician's own atmosphere and exactly accomplished the commands which I gave him, which was to disintegrate his evil thoughts and to fortify his good thoughts. I also remember a curious case from the primeval times of South America. A father brought his son to me, who was a child of a young age. He did so in order for me to prescribe medicine to the child who had fallen grievously sick by pestilence. The child's fatal outcome was inevitable. Consequently, I told the child's father, "I will cure your child, but because he is already a lost case, you have to give him to me as an adoptive son." The child's father agreed with my proposition. Thus, I operated with the maguey in the very moment. I made the circle around it, blessed the plant, and pronounced its 3 mantras, Libib, Lenoninas, Lenonon. Then, I commanded the elemental to cure the child of the horrible pestilence. Afterwards, I removed the roots of that maguey and prepared a decoction. While the water was boiling, I blessed the decoction pot and commanded the elemental like this: "Work, heal the sick child." This is how the child rapidly recovered his health. The elemental of the century plant is Jupiterian and possesses great occult powers. I had a reincarnation during the time of the government of the last Caesar from Rome. At that time, I had fame as a magician. Hence, I was called by Caesar in order to help him to get rid of a political personage who was his mortal enemy. I accepted the job and operated with the elemental of the maguey plant. I approached the plant and blessed it. Then, I walked in a circle around it from right to left, cut one of its fleshy leaves, and placed it between the palms of my hands. Afterwards, I pronounced the mantras of the maguey plant, Libib, Lenoninas, Lenonon. I imperiously commanded the elemental of this plant to transport himself to the abode of the Caesar's enemy in order to disintegrate his thoughts of hatred and to infuse into him love towards the sovereign. The results were astonishing, because in a few days the mortal enemies became reconciled. Magic of the Guasimo tree, Guazuma ulmifolia Lamarck. The elemental of the Guasimo plant is armed with powerful magical attributes. This elemental lives in the Tatwa Tejas as a very distinguished elemental of fire. The cape which falls to his feet thus corroborates it. The mantras of this igneous elemental are mood, mood, hamaka. With these mantric words, the elemental of the guasimo is commanded to work in what is desired for. The magician will take one of the branches of this tree, after having blessed it, and will trace a circle around it, in accordance with what has already been taught. Once the ritual has concluded, collect a bunch of its leaves and put them to macrate for 15 or 20 days within a bottle of rum. Before starting the utilization of this medicament, do some passes with your right hand over the affected organs with the intention of collecting the diseased fluids, which must be placed within a sack made with wool, because wool is an extremely efficient insulated material. The hand must be placed within the wool sack 7 times for the already indicated reason. When this operation is finished, then close the sack's opening and pray to the elemental so that he can cure the sick person. The Gnostic medic must perform this prayer while kneeling over a stone, and when Lai finishes his petition, he will cast the sack from his hands with the fervent desire of throwing the rheumatism away from the body of the sick person. Give to the sick person a little cup of the maceration of rum every hour. The healing is quick. Magic of the Gualande tree. Jacaranda corcana pitia. The elemental of the Gualande tree has a dark green tunic. He belongs to the wisdom of the serpent. I remember a very interesting case in those foregone times when the submerged continents of Lemuria and Atlantis were still united with South America. A young female Indian, who was the promised fiancée of a handsome man from the same tribe, was suffering horribly because of the consequences of a quarrel, which threatened to frustrate the matrimonial agreement. Since I was the medic magician from that tribe, I was consulted by that grievous woman, whom I promised to help. Thus, I immediately operated with the elemental of the Gualande tree in the following way. At sunrise, facing towards the east and with my head covered with a mantle, I approached the Gualande tree. Then, after performing the ritual which we have previously described, I took 2 of its branches as a symbol of the bride and groom. Thus, with a branch in each hand and facing towards the place where the bridegroom dwelled, I pronounced 3 times the mantra of the Gualande tree. Tisando, Tisando, Tisando. I commanded the elemental to transport himself to the residence of the bride and bridegroom to end the quarrel and to harmonize the couple. The elemental was not to abandon this assignment until such orders were accomplished. After performing this procedure, I placed the branches of the Gualande tree over 2 wooden trunks which were on the ground. Then I took the branches and whipped them against the trunks until the leaves were detached from them. I gave these to the bride so she could cook them with the groom's food. Thus, a short time after, the couple married and they became happy. There is nothing more efficient than the ritual of the Gualande tree in order to destroy the quarrels of marriage. The elemental of this tree belongs to the wisdom of the snake. This elemental must be imperiously invoked and commanded in such a manner. Tisando, work intensely. Tisando, cure the sick person, heal his liver. Tisando, harmonize the marriage of name, terminate their quarrels, etc. The ritual must not be forgotten in the moment of harvesting this plant. It must be blessed and commanded to do whatever one wishes. Also, when the water from the decoction of this plant is boiling, the blessings and the vocalization of the mantra Tisando must be repeated. Dosage. In order to heal the liver, drink 3 glasses daily of the decoction of this plant before meals for 15 days. Magic of the guasquin plant. Microsheet conimbosa HBK. In order to reconcile oneself with an enemy, this plant must be harvested during the day. A circle must be traced with a reed while over the top of the plant. Then, the letter S must be pronounced in the following way. S. After having perfumed a cloth with the smoke of herbs, then the cloth has to be blessed by making 3 passes in the form of a cross with blessed water. Afterwards, it has to be perfumed with a fine rose essence, heliotrope essence, and eau de cologne. The assistants must keep themselves in chastity and must cleanse themselves from astral larvae. Therefore, they must practice sexual magic. Magic of the Mami tree, Mamea americana L., called Guanabana cabezotea or Tutna cabeza de tigre on the coast of Colombia. Collect 9 leaves from this tree and make 3 crosses. Use 3 leaves for each cross and underpin each one of them with a pin. 1 cross will be placed under the bed and the other 2 crosses as follows. 1 on the threshold, doorway, of the bedroom, and the other outside of the bedroom's threshold. No black magician or sorcerer can enter into the bedroom when these 3 crosses from this plant are placed as indicated. This is the way in which many people can defend themselves from the forces of evil. The magic circle must be traced around this tree before collecting the leaves from it. Also, the 4 cardinal points of the earth must be blessed while reciting the prayer of the angel Gabriel, which is as follows. 13,000 rays has the sun, 13,000 rays has the moon, 13,000 times be repented, all my enemies. The angel Gabriel will reject all the visible and invisible evil entities with this prayer for whosoever performs this supplication at the foot of the Mami tree. This tree has the 13 powers from the sun and from the moon. Therefore, it is very powerful. These 13 powers are the following. 1. The holy house. 2. The chorus of angels from Gemini. 3. The 13 candles which blaze in Galilee, the 13 Marys. 4. The 4 tablets of Moses and the coffin. 5. The 5 wounds, stigmata. 6. The 6,000 chorus of angels, 6 holy barons. 7. The 7 Pleiades which blaze in Galilee. 8. The 8 months and days of the pregnancy of Mary, who had the child in her womb. 9. The 9 commandments. 10. The crown of thorns of Jesus Christ. 11. The 11,000 virgins. 12. The 12 apostles. 13. The magical prayer. Those persons who want to reject their mortal enemies will trace a circle around the tree. Then they will bless the 4 cardinal points and will recite the powerful prayer of the angel Gabriel. Elemental magic of the guava tree. Guayabo, Psidium guajaba. I remember something very interesting from those primeval epochs of South America when Lemuria and Atlantis had not yet submerged. A lady was abandoned by her husband, and so she remained in a truly lamentable situation. Feeling condolence for this poor woman, I performed a work of elemental magic with the guava tree. I lit a big wax candle over a piece of cloth used by the husband. Then, I cut a branch from the guava tree and placed it next to the wax candle. Next, I imperiously commanded the elemental of the guava tree to bring into the house the absent husband. This work was astonishing because the result was marvelous. The husband returned in repentance to his house. The elemental of the guava tree resembles a girl wearing a pink tunic, who has a beautiful presence. All of these works of elemental magic must be performed after having asked permission to the lords of karma. Therefore, I teach to all my disciples to depart in their astral bodies, in order for them to visit the temples of the lords of karma. When these type of works are performed against the will of the lords of destiny, then one falls into black magic and falls into the abyss. Therefore, every work of practical magic must be supported with permission of the lords of the law. Those who do not know how to depart in their astral bodies can consult the lords of the law by opening the Bible. Before opening the Bible, beg to the lords of the law, asking permission in order to execute the magical work. Then, with closed eyes, ask the lords of the law to guide your hand. In an unplanned manner, open the book, placing the index finger upon any verse of the opened page. Next, open your eyes and read what you have pointed to. The Bible is highly symbolic. Thus, the symbolic verse will be interpreted based on the law of similarities, analogies. The verse upon which we place the index finger can be interpreted with a little bit of common sense. This procedure with the Bible is done when we require direction regarding the execution of magical works which act upon our neighbor's free will. Elemental magic of the guarumo tree. The Mama Kunchuvito Muya, Indian master, told me that the guarumo tree serves as much for doing good as well as for doing evil, and also for healing sick people. It is clear that we, the white magicians, utilize this tree for doing good. The children of darkness utilize it for doing evil. The Mama Kunchuvito Muya taught me how to cure sick people from far distances by means of the powerful elemental of the guarumo tree. He blessed the plant, then he commanded the elemental to cure a certain person. He placed a mug filled with water close to the plant and put a stick within the water. Then, during the certain space of time, he was stirring the water with the stick. His mind was intensely concentrated on the sick person whom he wanted to cure from a far distance. A circle must be traced on the ground around the plant in order to work with it. A small vegetal host wafer enclosed within a cannula exists inside the trunk of the guarumo tree, as well as in all of its center. This vegetal host wafer can be used as an amulet in order to defend oneself against occult and invisible enemies, also in order to aid oneself against the people who hate us. Carry this vegetal host wafer inside a small green bag. Magic of the male fern. Dryopteris filix mas L. In the book Occult Botany, which is attributed to Paracelsus, we find a very grave error on page 183 regarding the magic of the male fern. The formula written in that book is mistaken. We believe that those errors were never written by Paracelsus. Such errors belong only to his interpreters, successors, and translators, because Paracelsus is completely a master of wisdom. We, who have dealt with him, know very well that he is not guilty of these errors. Such mistakes were made by his interpreters. The exact formula for the male fern is as follows. On the night of St. John the Baptist, which is the end of the 23rd day of June, at midnight, Vespers of St. John, June 24th, 3 persons will magically operate with the male fern. Such 3 persons must walk towards the place where the male fern is planted. They must go perfectly bathed, dressed and perfumed, as if they were going to a wedding ceremony or to a very fancy party. They will place next to the male fern a fine cloth spread out on the ground. Such a cloth must be magically prepared with the smoke of the leaves of laurel, verbena and anamu, Petiveria aliacea plumier. After having perfumed that cloth with the smoke of those herbs, then the cloth has to be blessed by making 3 passes in the form of a cross with blessed water. Afterwards, it has to be perfumed with a fine rose essence, heliotrope essence, and eau de cologne. The assistants must keep themselves in chastity and must cleanse themselves from astral larvae. Therefore, they must practice sexual magic. They must never cohabit in their lives. The cleanse is made by performing baths with the plant called mano de Dios, or lengua de Baco. Do not mistake this plant with lengua de vaca, Rumex crispus L. The magician will trace a circle on the ground around this plant when the ritual is being performed. Such a circle must be traced with a stick from the same plant. This plant has astonishing magical powers in order to reject the magicians from darkness. There is not a black magician who can resist the whips of this plant called mano de Dios. Evil entities can be expelled from the house with such a plant. The magicians from darkness will terribly attack the performers of this ritual on the night of St. John in order to stop them from collecting the seeds of the male fern. Whosoever achieves the collecting of the seeds will fill himself with good luck and fortune. Money will smile upon him everywhere. This person will be filled with happiness, and his business affairs will be triumphant. The whole world will envy him because of his fortune. These seeds are only found on the day already indicated, at 12 midnight, and under the roots of the male fern. The assistants must distribute these seeds in a friendly manner, without arguments or ambitions. Everyone must carry his seeds within a small jug, or better, if they are placed inside a little bag and hung from the neck. Extensive amounts have been written about this plant within the book Traité des Superstitions, written by the erudite J.B. Thiers. It is a book from the 17th century. The powder of the male fern root is good in order to expel tapeworms. Consume 10 grams of this powder within 125 grams of water. After the space of 1 hour, drink a purgative. Magic of the Jarila chivata plant. The Saga Maria Pastora, who is a master from the wisdom of the Mayan Ray, taught me how to use the Jarila chivata plant. The Saga walked in a circle around the plant. Then she blessed and harvested the plant. Afterwards, she crushed it and took the pressed juice from it. Next, within a container, she mixed this juice with pure water and lemon. She gave this mixture to a young woman to drink who was sick from a pernicious fever. Subsequently, this young woman was totally cured. The elemental of the Jariya chivata plant is a small and thin creature of a black color. After the ill woman drank the potion and after the healing was performed, the saga sent the elemental away. Magic of the cashew tree, Anacardium occidentale L. The elemental of this tree has magical powers. If the magician wants a distant friend to come or wants to terminate the quarrels of a marriage, then he must magically operate in the following way. He will take between his hands the fruit of the cashew tree and say, "By the help of God, Padoria, Padoria, Padoria." This mantra is pronounced with a loud, imperious voice, commanding the elemental of this tree to work over the mind of the person whom one is trying to influence. The skin of the fruit must be pierced with a pin during this magical operation. The phenomena will be mathematically performed. I know in depth the psychology of certain super-transcended people. When they will read these lines, they will qualify us as black magicians. Just as they do with us, they will also do with all of those who practice vegetal magic and elementotherapy. If the classification of black magicians would be given to us for the fact of manipulating the elementals from the plants, then what classification would be given to the angels who manipulate the tattvas by means of its elemental populations? The manifested life is the expression of monadic essences. These essences are compounded by focal essences, who are dressed with vehicles of distinct density. We call such focal essences elementals, human beings, gods, beasts, angels, archangels, etc., etc. Each plant is the physical expression of a monad. We call these vegetal monads elementals. So then, who is the one who has the audacity to think that knowing how to manipulate the life of the vegetals is evil? How many ignoramuses, who boast of hypocritical and cheap wisdom, would wish at least to see, since they cannot exert power over them, the elementals from nature? Marvels of the pine tree. The pine is the tree of Aquarius and possesses great magical powers. Cut a branch that is towards the rising sun, and 2 branches from the side of the sunset, and form a cross with these. The body of the cross will be made with the 1 branch, and the arms which form the cross will be made with the 2 branches. Create an iron key during 7 Holy Fridays. Leave a concavity or orifice in this key so that you can insert the stick of the cross through it. Whosoever carries this key will be exempt from any type of sickness which is produced by witchcraft. As well, any type of sorcery or work of black magic will have no effect over the one who bears this key. The pine is the sacred tree of Aquarius. Every Gnostic must cultivate this tree in his garden. Pine extract cures and purifies the lungs. Pine cones, seeds, cure influenza. In order to prepare this remedy, one proceeds in the following way. Boil 15 to 20 pine cones within a liter of water. The sick person will drink 3 glasses daily of this ideal remedy. Magic of the roses. If there exists human cruelty, it is true that there also exists spiritual cruelty. All of us who love the light have already passed through many types of isms. That is to say, we have known the schools of Theosophism, Rosicrucianism, spiritualism, etc., etc. Thus, where only love, brotherhood, fraternity, and peace were proclaimed, we really only found hypocritical Pharisees, whitened sepulchres, resentment disguised within garbs of philosophy, terrible fanaticism, and secret gossiping. Where we were searching for wisdom, we only found charlatanry, vanity, and stubborn pride. There is no stab that hurts more than the one of spiritual cruelty. Thus, the poor souls who long for their superlative perfection and for their spiritual self-ennoblement suffer the unutterable in their journey when they search for the truth inside all of those famous spiritualistic schools. All the infamies and all the caddish tricks are supplied by all those spiritualistic brothers. Yet, their worst cruelties are always disguised with philosophical phrases and sweet smiles. Hence, there is no stab that hurts more than the spiritual stab. Moral sicknesses can only be cured with the magic of the roses. Therefore, all those people who are sick because of a spiritual stab can be cured with the magic of the roses. Those poor souls who have a very deep emotional pain, let them be cured with the magic of the roses. The rose is the queen of the flowers. The rose is influenced by Venus, the star of love, the morning star. A great ineffable master lives in that star. The name of this master is Lanos, pronounced Janos. The chela, disciple, who wants to visit the morning star with his astral body, will operate in the following way. With his body well relaxed, he will lay down. He will get a little bit drowsy and will vocalize with his mind the following prayer. Llanos, Llanos, Llanos. Help me, Lla, Do, Lla, Ma, Do, Lla, Nos. Then, when the disciple finds himself already drowsy, half asleep, he must sit softly on his bed, throw the blanket off of him with which he is covered, and get down from his bed. Thus, when he is standing on the floor, he must jump with the intention of floating within the air. If he floats, then he must go out from his house while floating in the atmosphere and while pronouncing the invocation of the Master Llanos, pronouncing it in the same way as when he was doing it on his bed. The Master Llanos is an inhabitant of the planet Venus. He will hear the call from the invoker, the llamador. He will help him in order to arrive to Venus, the star of the roses, the morning star. The disciple will be welcomed by the Master Llanos when arriving to Venus, and if he wants wisdom, then the Master will illuminate him. The disciple will be overwhelmed because of the ineffable resplendence which springs out from the aura and from the diamond tunic of the Master Llanos. This Master has already united himself with his Glorian. Therefore, he wears a diamond tunic. During the hour of Venus, the astral atmosphere is filled with a pink light of ineffable beauty. A guru once told me the following: "My son, this is a very dangerous hour for astral projection because all the world is filled with a pink light." This master was right. If it is true that in the hour of Venus, the positive ray from this star is filling everything with light, music, and love, it is also true and very real that the negative ray from Lucifer Venus, that is the ray of the black magician Lucifer, and of all of the Lucifers and tenebrous initiates from the copper cauldron, is also active. Yet, if the disciple lives a pure and chaste life, then he will have nothing to fear of the magicians from darkness. Fortunately, Lucifer and the Lucifers have already fallen into the abyss. This clue, which we give here in order to travel in astral body to the star Venus, I, Samael Aun Weor, received from the great Egyptian initiate Mary, mother of Jesus of Nazareth. Tradition tells us that when Mary was making carpets for the Temple of Jerusalem, those carpets were transforming themselves into roses. The lines from the hands of Mary, mother of Jesus, clearly tell us that she had a rich suitor in her first youth, whom she did not want to accept because her only yearning was to become a priestess of the light. Mary suffered very much with the event of the divine rabbi from Galilee. She had only one spouse, who was Joseph the Initiate, and only one son, who was the divine master. Therefore, Mary was an authentic, pure, and holy Gnostic priestess. Her face was bronzed by the desert sun, her body was fine and agile. She was short in stature, slightly flat-nosed, and her upper lip protruded just a little. This master was humbly dressed. She had comfort in the first years of her life. Yet later in her life, she was very poor. She used to wear a brown-colored tunic that was faded and patched, since she was living in poverty. Her holy life accomplished the most grandiose mission that can be granted unto a human being. Now she, this prominent master, is reincarnated again in the valley of the Nile. On this occasion, she was born with a masculine body. This great soul came in order to accomplish a great worldly mission. Magic formula of the rose, in order to be healed from an emotional pain. Place 3 crystal glasses filled with pure water upon a table, with 1 rose in each glass. These glasses must be arranged so that they will form a triangle, 1 glass towards the north, another towards the east, and another towards the west. Each glass must be blessed by the person performing this rite, who will drink the 3 glasses of rose water daily in the following sequence. Before breakfast, drink the glass of water which faces the east. Before lunch, drink the glass of water which faces the north. Before dinner, drink the glass of water which faces the west. This treatment must be accompanied by a sincere supplication to the intimate spirit and to the white fraternity, so they may help the person become free from the emotional pain in which he is situated. Any emotional pain, as grave as it might be, will be cured with this formula, which is repeated for several days. When and during what epoch has any physician cured sufferings of an emotional nature? How many people die daily or get sick because of emotional sufferings? Nonetheless, it is sad to say that there has never been a compassionate person who has delivered to humanity the exact formula in order to cure emotional pains. Cases of suicide are innumerable, and nobody has ever spoken about the magic of the roses. Many certified physicians can be blamed for deaths that occur daily, yet human justice cannot reach them, even when, so to speak, they can fill up a cemetery on their own. I knew young people who were humble and modest while they were simple students from the Faculty of Medicine. Yet, as soon as they received their physician's title, they became proud, vain, and despotic. Medicine is a very sacred priesthood. Therefore, by no means can a despotic or proud individual ever be an authentic physician. The Queen of the Flowers. The rose is the queen of the flowers. When we investigate in the internal worlds, the vegetal magic of the roses, we can evidence that the rituals of the Queen of the Flowers are our own Gnostic rituals. Some authentic Rosicrucian temples exist in the internal worlds. One of them is the Temple of Montserrat, Catalufla, Spain, and another is the Temple of Chapultepec in Mexico. The true sanctuaries from the true Rose Cross order are totally Gnostic. The Gnostic Rosicrucian ray has its temples of mysteries only in the internal worlds. The rose, with its immaculate beauty, encloses the most ineffable spiritual wisdom from the universe. The rituals of first, second, and third degree are the Gnostic magic of the Queen of the Flowers. All the plants have their sacred rites. Yet, the sacred rites of the Queen of the Flowers are our holy rituals. The roses from Sirius. On one certain occasion, when I, Samael Aun Weor, was in the star Sirius, I saw from far away some trees which were each penetrated by a damsel of an ineffable and touching beauty. Those damsels called me so that I could approach them. They were elemental damsels, nymphs, who were incarnated within those shrubs. Their melodious voice was music from paradise. I conversed with them, and then I withdrew, astonished with their plentiful beauty. That planet has vast seas, and the inhabitants from that star have never killed, not even a little bird. Their social organization would be magnificent for our terrestrial globe. All the economical problems from this world would end, and happiness would reign upon the surface of the earth. The Syrians are short in stature, and they have all their internal senses perfectly developed. They dress simply, with humble tunics, and use metallic sandals. Every Syrian lives in a small wooden house. There is no house that does not have a small orchard where the owner of the house cultivates his vegetal elements. The owner of the house also possesses a small garden where he cultivates his flowers. Capitalists do not live there, cities do not exist there either, nor landholders. Therefore, the people from Sirius do not know hunger or disgrace. Some rose bushes exist in the garden of the great temple of the god Sirius, which are unknown on our earth. Each rose from that garden has various meters of height, and each one exhales a perfume which is impossible to forget. The magic of the roses is something divine and ineffable. Magic of the sassafras. Sassafras officinale, Laurus sassafras. I remember a very interesting event in relation with the sassafras which happened in those far-off primeval epochs of South America. A certain indigenous person from the same tribe that I belonged to became filled with jealousy for his wife, whom he loved. He even reached the point of thinking that I, Samael Aun Weor, was making off with his wife. I clearly remember that while traversing a road, I encountered the husband of this woman. When he saw me, he was filled with a horrible jealousy, and he intended to attack me aggressively. However, he restrained himself. The man resolved to put the case in the hands of the Indian chief of Tile tribe. I was the medic from that tribe. Therefore, I knew in depth the magic of the vegetals, and due to that scandal, I decided to defend myself with the elemental of the sassafras. The following day, very early, before tile sun illuminated the horizon, I directed myself to the forest, together with the woman who was the cause of that scandal. Some Indians were also accompanying us. Then, when I located the plant called sassafras, I blessed it, I begged the elemental for the desired service, and very slowly I yanked the plant from its very roots. This plant serves in order to end scandals. Afterwards, I crushed the plant and extracted the pressed juice from it and gave this juice to the woman to drink, who was the cause of the scandal. I also drank from this plant's juice, while my comrades were observing us in silence. Subsequently, I stuck a spike on the trunk of the sassafras plant. I kneeled before it and intensely concentrated my mind on the spike, commanding the elemental of the sassafras to transport himself towards the Indian chief and to dominate him with his powers. At the same time, while performing this magic work, I was pronouncing the mantra or magic word of the sassafras, Parilla, Parilla, Parilla. Then, the elemental of the sassafras plant transported himself towards the Indian chief and went around him while pronouncing his elemental magic enchantments. The elemental penetrated into the cerebrum spinal nervous system of the Indian chief and totally dominated him by saturating him with atoms of love, light, and harmony. So, the next day, when I presented myself before the throne of the Indian chief, he was already in my favor. Therefore, I spoke with an arrogant and loud voice, "Why did you call me? You cannot act against me." Then the Indian chief answered, "Enough with such scandals, withdraw yourself, you have no debts." Thus, this is how that painful incident passed. The elemental of the sassafras uses a tunic of a resplendent yellow-golden color. He is very intelligent, has a beautiful face, and his eyes are of a clear chestnut color. The sassafras plant mixed with the juice of the plant called Sansevieria xylanica willid, and Fioraventi balm are used as a poultice in order to combat neuralgia. The sassafras is also a diuretic and a cleanser. It must be harvested at dawn, the hour of the morning star, because this plant is Venusian. Magic of the yucca plant. Yucca gloriosa L, Yucca filamentosa L. In magical terms, the trunk or center stalk from the yucca plant is called black hen, black yucca. The magician remains completely protected against the assaults from the Black Lodge when he makes a staff from the trunk or center stalk of this plant. Yet, this stalk must be cut on Good Friday at 12 midnight. If this stalk with its leaves is hung from the ceiling, then the vampires, which are sent by the black magicians, remain stuck there.